All right, so here we are, Smash Mouth family. Greg Gronostowski, owner operator of the Injury Boys this year, because of the fact that I can't keep my team healthy at all. And we got a couple interviews for you this week, and I hope you enjoy them. It's a little bit different than we're used to for articles or other things that we've done in the past. So I hope you enjoy this. So it's week 9 here. Owner Nasty Boys, Greg Gronostowski. Did some interviews this week, and first one up is Ralph, leading the white division, 7-3. Here's what he had to say. Okay, Ralph is the owner of Chiefs, and right now sitting on top of the entire SFL with a 7-3 record. You're sitting in the white division at 7-3. Your points against are the lowest in the league. How do you feel about that?
I think it's a lot of luck, man. You get points against and you're lowest in the league and you're in first place. There's a reason for that. I have not had a very strong year. I got poor running backs, weak tight end, but I'll take the 7-3, especially since it's over Evil Fire and whoever that third place team in last place team in our division that's so far back I can't see him, AJ.
Yeah, that's sweaty balls. Sweaty balls.
Sweaty balls is far back, but no one's out of it yet, which is cool.
It is amazing. This year has been amazing. I've actually been surprised on how tight the divisions have been and how the wins and losses have gone so far. Another thing I'd like to touch on is your team. When you comprised your team, how did you feel in the beginning of the year where you would be?
I felt much better about my team in the beginning of the year than I do now, figuring I'd get some good production out of Bilal Powell as a running back. I thought maybe Kobe Fleener may have a good year based on my stupid trade for David Johnson. But I feel all right now. I feel pretty good about my wide receivers, my kicker and defense and quarterback, but running back and tight end I'm weak at for sure.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at your team right now. We're going to go to rosters.
After Devontae Freeman, who hasn't been that good, I'm weak at running back.
Yeah, Devontae Freeman is widely used, though, in that offense. You got to be pretty stoked about that. It's even though you have Tavon Coleman there, Devontae Freeman is absolutely an intricate part of the Atlanta offense.
He is, but he hasn't had too many good weeks this year.
Okay. Let's talk about...
Now, Mark Mack would have taken over for Gore, and that hasn't happened.
So you acquired Drew Brees here as your starting quarterback. How do you feel about his performance so far?
I think he's been weak. He's not even in the top 10 this year. He's like 12 or 13 right now. Tyrod Taylor's outscored him the last couple of weeks, but I just can't pull the trigger and put him in my lineup.
Yeah,
I paid $30 for Brees. I'm riding him out.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Having Cam Newton and Matt Stafford, having Matt Stafford at 10 and Cam Newton could score 40 at any time. I'm in the same predicament as you. Though the New Orleans have been putting up some amazing points recently here, I hope that will eventually pay off for you. Let's get back to
running there.
Yes. Okay, so you picked up Kobe Fleener, because he's a New Orleans tight end, and they had Graham there previously, so you're expecting this performance. How do you feel about Kobe Fleener? Will he ever recover from this hole that he's in right now?
Yeah, I don't know. They just don't seem to use him in that offense. For some reason, Breeze doesn't go to him like I thought he would, like he did with Graham. I don't think I've started him since week 2 when I picked up Safarian Jenkins, and he's been my starter ever since. I can't even have any reliance on Fleener whatsoever.
What do you think about Stephon Diggs' value now that there's a potential Bridgewater emergence at Minnesota?
Yeah, Diggs is great value. I think I only spent $10 on him too. He's a great value when he's healthy, man. That guy's a monster catching balls. But I think having Bridgewater can't hurt. He's definitely an upgrade from Case Keenum. So I'm hoping that he gets back to catching balls. I need him.
Okay, let's talk about your defensive players. Rashard Jones, defensive backs, right? So since we've added the IDP, it's usually where the linebackers that seem to stick off the page and go. But recently, now that the NFL's changed a little bit, it looks like these defensive backs are actually making such large jumps in the IDP. Why did you pick Rashard Jones in this situation?
I mean, he was one of the top 10 players last year in points scored, so I targeted him at the draft if I could get him. And he does pretty good. I mean, he's usually between 8 and 12 points every week. I think last week he had 13. So I'll take that for my defensive guy any day of the week.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're right. We used to always only take linebackers, and that was it. But yeah, he's been pretty good. And there's a couple other ones out there too.
And how do you feel about Justin Tucker? Is he everything that he was cracked up to be?
Tucker's great, but I'll tell you, Suckup has been scoring better than him this year. So Suckup I've had in my lineup probably half the times, but Tucker's great, man. That guy can hit from beyond 50. So he's always good for a couple of games a year of like 15 or 16 points.
And how are your defenses doing for you?
I got the Rams, so they're pretty good. I mean, they start almost every week for me. I think I've only had to put the Falcons in on the bye week, but the Rams are probably the third or fourth best team scoring, so they're pretty good. I'll take it.
Okay, and lastly, so here we are. We're 9 weeks in. You're sitting on top of your division. Who are you looking forward not to play?
I'm not looking forward to playing Gambler this week, that's for sure. And Bob's team is tough, and he's playing good. The only good thing is he's got 4 New Orleans Saints, so if there's like a bus crash going to the game this week, I think I got a chance. But
hey, so Ralph, what is your prediction on the playoffs now that we see what's unraveling this far in our league?
I don't have the standings in front of me, but I mean, I think Bob is probably a lock to make it. I think Wrecking Crew is a good team. He's a lock to make it. Honestly, without dissing any teams in particular, I think Phil and Derek and AJ probably are the 3 teams that aren't going to make the playoffs. But I think if you take those 3 teams out of it, I think anybody else can make it or be out of it, depending on how it shakes out. And even those guys are not totally out of it, but I think the injuries have probably taken their tolls, and now Zeke's suspension. So I have a hard time picturing any of those 3 getting in, but I think everybody else is totally fair game.
All right, so here's going to be the final with your interview. We're going to talk about give a shout out and give a diss. All right, so who are you going to shout out to?
I will give a shout out to the. I'll give a shout out to Antonio Brown only because that guy is money and he's pretty consistent, and you always know you can put him in the lineup and there's no doubt about it.
All right, and then who are you going to diss?
My diss has got to be Kobe Fleener because, first of all, he sucks. I can't start him, and I'll never regret the fact that I traded, or always regret the fact that I traded him for David Johnson and a draft pick. I actually gave him a draft pick and David Johnson for Kobe Fleener, which has got to be the worst trade in SFL history. So I'm cutting him as soon as this year is over, and I'm never picking him up again. It kills me every time. The only thing that helps me this year is that David Johnson missed the year being hurt, but it's the worst trade ever, and so Kobe Fleener sucks. He's always will be my diss.
Okay. Well, Ralph, we appreciate your time. You're 7-3. Congratulations, sitting on top of your division. We hope you the best, and we'll see you in the future.
All right, Greg, man. Talk to you later.
All right, man. Later.
All right, man.
So, Ralph, we thank you for your time. Thank you for taking the time out for that interview. Again, 7-3 in his division, looking really good. Team scores points all the time, very consistent. But up next, we have the guy who's scoring the most points in the league, Michael Hayes, Wrecking Crew, 6-4, top of the blue division. Here's what he had to say. Hi, I'm here with Michael Hayes, owner of the Wrecking Crew, top of the blue division, sitting at a 6-4. Just won his last game where Dave Bean's Bombers have taken a crash dive or a dive bomb into 3 losses in the last 3 weeks. Mike, let's start where we started in the draft, right? So you had a pretty good base going into the draft, and you went and drafted a couple people. How'd that work out for you?
Yeah, the people that I drafted were mainly for next year's depth. I didn't get the depth that I wanted for this year, but I think we're going to be fine without it.
Okay. So, because you had such a good core from last year, you're again leading this year as you did last year in points for. Points against, you're at 1293.5. In the middle of the pack, you didn't. Every team hasn't scored the most points against you, but you're not the least like Ralph's Chiefs are right now. They're sitting at 7-3, but they have the least points scored against. All right, so going through your team, you got a great group of guys, right? So let's start with Dak Prescott, Dallas, right? They just got a hit with Ezekiel Elliott finally getting suspended. It looks like he's absolutely going to be serving his suspension for at least 4 games. What do you think of his prospect going forward?
I think he's going to increase what he scores. Dallas is going to have to score points somehow. It's going to have to be through him rushing and throwing.
Okay. And then, of course, you got Todd Gurley here sitting 7 overall, sitting over a bunch of quarterbacks even in fantasy at this time with the outstanding job he's doing. How do you feel about him?
He's a beast, man. Monster comeback after the shit year he had last year.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I'm surprised you stuck with him after last year. I wanted to try to pick him from you, but I didn't know if you would or not. It's tough to give up Gurley, but at the same token, he had a tough year last year, and now this year he's just bam. I mean, it's all in for him, and he's doing a phenomenal job. All right, and Le'Veon Bell, how do you feel about his production this year?
He's coming on. He had a slow start after his holdout, but he's ready to make another run for the cup.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's getting stronger and stronger each week, and he's doing a phenomenal job. All right, so me and you both have this issue, right? So we have Deshaun Watson, and he's slinging the ball all over the freaking place. Both Will Fuller and your top wide receiver at this point, DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, they're just phenomenal wide receivers over there, and he took a hit with the quarterback. What do you think about his progress going forward?
Up until last year, the guy was pretty much quarterback proof. He had a real shit year last year, and he's in for a monster comeback this year. I'm hoping he's back to his quarterback proof days. I
agree with you on that. Okay, now you're sitting here now, and Doug Baldwin, right? So I had to look it up and find out what the rest of your team looked like. Doug Baldwin is actually sitting at the number 4 overall leading points receiver at this moment. Yes, he did play yesterday because it's Thursday, but still, I mean, that's amazing for a guy that I think he was a 3rd wide receiver for you when you actually drafted him.
Yeah, exactly, but he looked like he was coming up.
I agree with you. And Russell Wilson, at this point, it looks like he's going to have to put the Seattle Seahawks on his back. How do you think that will affect Doug Baldwin?
I think it's going to be more production.
I agree with you. Okay, so Delaney Walker, right? He was an absolute stud for you last year. He's kind of been in the middle this year a little bit, just coming off an injury. What do you? I don't know what his matchups look like, but what does his matchups look like for you, and how do you think he's going to do for you the rest of the year?
I think his matchups look pretty good. He's a top option in that offense. I think his days are gonna get better as he gets healthier.
Okay. What would be the worst case scenario for you if someone were to get injured on your team? What would be worst case scenario for you?
Worst case scenario would be Bell or Gurley going out. I just don't have anybody to replace anywhere near that production. I
feel you. And I gotta be honest with you. You look down the rosters; everyone's almost in the same positions. We're very, very, very thin at running back, and it's just crazy because you don't know who's going to be the starting running back the next week. It's amazing. Okay, and your kicker and your defense, right? You're struggling a little bit with the kicker. Hoping that'll improve. You got Graham Gano. Right?
Yeah, Graham Gano.
Graham Gano from Carolina. Well, hopefully.
Yeah, he's a kicker.
Yeah. Well, Well, I love kickers because they're the secret. They're like the secret weapon sometimes. To get you over the edge of some of them tough games. But if Carolina can pick up their play, I think you'll do all right with him. And then you got the Steelers defense, which is ranked 10th in the league right now. So look pretty stacked, Mike. This is the point where we're going to go with the diss. Who you're going to give a shout out to and who you're going to give a diss to. So who's your shout out on your team?
On my team, it's got to be Gurley. Monster come back here.
Absolutely, monster come back here. Agree with that. And who's your diss?
This has got to be Tyler Eifert. He's a fucking China doll.
Yes. Okay, and lastly, Mike, we're going to talk about what the playoff outlook looks for you. Obviously, you're the strongest team out there at this moment. You're scoring the most points. Do you see this changing? Do you see anything changing for you to miss the playoffs at this point?
A major injury or me fucking up and not putting a lineup in.
I hear that. And who would you like to duck in the playoffs if you can?
I'd like to duck the gambler. That team's pretty strong.
I hear you. Well, I'll tell you what, Mike. You're looking strong. I'm in your division, and I'm hating every minute of that fact because of the fact of how strong your team is. Wish you good luck the rest of the year, and we'll see you around.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, man. Have a good one. So, Mike, we appreciate your time for that interview. Greatly appreciate it. Wrecking Crew, guys. 6-4. Leading the league in points, top of the blue division. Four players in the top 24 of fantasy points overall. But up next, guys coming up, looking hot. Won 4 in a row, then just lost his last one because he had Brady and Melvin Gordon on the bench. Gambler, owner, Bob Gamble. And here's what he had to say. All right, so Bob Gamble here, owner of the Gambler franchise in the SFL. Started out was a little rough. Got that doubleheader, you lost 2, right? Then you just like your team just flourished, right? You got all these young players coming up, Alvin Kamara, okay, even Dante Oforma here and there. You got Tom Brady, who started a little rough, and now all of a sudden, New England's franchise is taking off. Leading our power rankings at 32.5. How do you feel going forward?
I feel pretty good. I've been staying relatively healthy, so I'm pretty happy right now. Hopefully things to come.
I agree with that, man. I'm telling you, you're a hot team. Everybody knows it. I did 2 interviews, and everyone wants to duck your team, which is very interesting to say. So you got the points leader in the league, right? And Ralph's got the best record in the league. And yet you have the best power rating in the league. It's a crazy, crazy thing going on. But like I said, when I talked to both of them, they were worried about you. So that's something to say. So let's start at your quarterback position, right? We have Tom Brady. I'm not sure quite. And your backup is?
Bortles.
Okay. Well, Bortles is playing for you this week. No, last week he played for you, right?
Last week, yeah.
Yeah, and he didn't do too bad. Right? So, got to talk about this. Not too often, anywhere, can you start 2 running backs from the same team. You got Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, right? Does that ever bother you to say, like, do you hope one gets in and the other's not? And how does that work out for you from week to week?
It's tough because it's usually both of them that can count on 15 points apiece. But some weeks Ingram has been a little bit lower because Kamara's now the hot hand. So I do even question sometimes starting both of them. But, it's hard not to,
Agreed, right? There's been so many injuries and stuff like that. And some people have been, we've had some really players that have not really shined in their positions, or they've had key injuries to their offense, and they're not playing. So you just expect a little bit more performance from that hot New Orleans team right now, right? They just won 6 in a row.
Yeah.
All right, or 7 in a row. Is it 7 in a row they won? It's crazy. So now, let's get into your wide receivers, right? You had some. Last year you had a great set of wide receivers. Everything seemed to work out for you. It looks like this year you're like, what happened, right? So let's talk about that. We got Jarvis Landry. How's he doing for you this year?
just okay. Expect a little bit better, but problem is he's held back by shitty quarterbacks.
I agree with you on that.
I was hoping he got traded, but it didn't happen.
So Juju Smith-Schuster, right? You just picked him up. He hasn't been able to start for you yet, but he's a hot hand. Playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Marvin Bryant's been non-existent, looking like he's going to disappear. How do you feel about him going forward?
It's a chance, you hope you get lucky. You pick up a player, he gets hot, and you hope he stays that way.
I agree. Okay, so you make a trade for a tight end, right? You were hot on Hunter Henry. That hasn't really panned out for you. Antonio Gates has been kind of in and out, but the San Diego Chargers offense hasn't been really firing off except for Melvin Gordon. Let's give you that shout out too, right? So you got Melvin Gordon, who I haven't seen in your lineup, but he's coming down. He's got him in the flex. But another guy who's actually stepped up. But so we put in Jason Witten here, right? So you got Dak Prescott. He's fourth on the quarterback for points for this year, and you got Jason Witten. What do you think about Jason?
Disappointment, but I'm afraid to put him on the bench because as soon as I feel like I put him on the bench, he's going to go off.
Right, so he has been on and off, right? He's been
consistent.
not consistent. All right, let's talk about Melvin Gordon and then locks that had those bolts coming out there. What do you think about Melvin Gordon?
Melvin Gordon's been solid all year, not bad. He's a little banged up, but he's been pretty good. He's played well. They're overall happy with him.
And I know this one's going to be a little bit of a twist for you because this guy was expected to probably lead the league. And Michael Thomas, right, wide receiver, supposed to be leading in every category at this part of the year with touchdowns and yardage. How do you feel about him and him going forward?
I think the best is yet to come. I think he's going to get hot coming this week. I think he starts this week. I really do. He's due.
He's due like a champ, man. I've been watching them 8s and 7s and 9s and no touchdowns and. I know that's probably
covered about 10 points.
Yeah.
8 to 10 every week, but I'm waiting for the 17 to 25 week. He's due. I think it starts this week. I really do. I need it.
All right, so let's take a look at Devontae Adams, right? So now he's on your bench. Why are you benching Devontae Adams?
Quarterback Brett Huntley can't hit nothing. He can hit the blind side of the barn.
Yeah, and yet we have the coach sitting there defending him, and this guy's this guy's that. I haven't seen anything. I'm sitting here with Jordy Nelson, bro, and I feel you on that. And it's tough. I don't even have someone to replace a Jordy Nelson, so I don't even know what to say about that.
Juju.
Yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster. There you go, man. That was a good pickup. All right, so now you also got this beast as your defensive your IDPs, right? You got Luke Kuechly. Let's talk about him a little bit.
He's the man. He's a stud.
Yeah, he is.
He tackles anybody. He's a tackling machine.
Reminds me of what the heck's that thing?
Abe's old boy from the Redskins. Guy yet forever. Dave had an IDP forever. He reminds me of him.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. It's tough to say his name too, but also you got Adam Sandler played
London Fletcher.
London Fletcher, that's right. London Fletcher, that's good pick up there. You also got Von Miller. I mean, what else can you say about Von Miller? I mean, I know he's not the super tackling guy, but he makes things happen. Forced fumbles, pass defenses, sacks, and other things. Talk about your defenses for a little bit here. You got 3. What made you go 3?
It wasn't on purpose. I had the Jets laying around under contract, and I had to keep them. And it actually turned out to be a good thing. Having 3 defenses, you can play the matchups a little bit better. So I actually kind of like it. I think going forward, I might do it again. You play your matchups. It kind of works out. Seems to be a little bit better that way.
And I'll tell you what, the Jets defense hasn't been slacks, man. They've actually. There's a reason why are they actually leading that division still, or are they in second place now?
I think they're second, but I'm not even sure on that.
All right, so your kickers are Will Lutz and Mason Crosby. Out of the 2, who do you prefer to use?
Will Lutz.
Okay.
Saints are a much better team.
And they're hot, right? They're 6-0 in the last couple weeks here, so that's pretty good. Okay, so this is the point where I give you your what we call the shout out and diss. Okay, if there's one player on your team you want to give a shout out to, who would that be?
Tom Brady.
Okay, and why is that?
He just gets it done.
Seems like he's a never-ending force of points. Okay, and who would you diss on your team?
Right now, it's got to be Jason Witten.
Okay, and
Just I love him. He's letting me down.
yeah, not feeling it, huh?
Nope, not lately.
Okay, so if there's one team in the playoffs you'd like to not play, who would it be?
Mike.
Yeah, Mike, right? Because he's leading with points. He's got that 1-2 punch at running back, dude, is just disgusting. And then you put Dak Prescott on there, who's having a phenomenal year. Okay, and what are you hoping for the playoffs?
I'm hoping to win. I'm hoping this is my year. I think it's the best shot I've ever had.
I agree with you, man. Your team's strong. You're 35 points behind the points leader in the league, and you're getting hotter every week. It seems like there's no stopping you from scoring 140 at any given time, which is quite amazing. So, Bob, we greatly appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you later on, and good luck in the playoffs.
Thanks, buddy. Great job.
All right, brother. So there you have it. You have Ralph, Mike, and Bob giving you their takes on their team and how things have been going so far. Greatly appreciate everyone's time. Still anyone's game, though. There's quite a few teams out there that can creep up into the playoffs if their teams get hot. Key players come back, things of that nature. But this is Greg Ernestowski, Nasty Boys, and this has been your Week 9 report.